Welcome, all of you.
This meeting is being recorded.
So welcome to the Stockbridge Library Museum and Archives online poetry series. We are in year 2, which we're very excited about. We have had poets from all over the nation as well as abroad reading with us and talking about their work with us. Today, we have a very exciting collection of poets joining us, the Virginia Women's Poetry Collective. Before I introduce our poets, I do want to take a moment to thank John Gillespie, who is the former board president of the Stockbridge Library Museum and Archives, and who has just continues to work tirelessly to bring poetry into our lives every week, and has for 2 years. So thank you, John. And our poets, the members of the Virginia Women's Poetry Collective, we have Kim Ports Parsons, who has a debut collection, Mayapple Forest, coming up soon. She grew up near Baltimore, has taught for decades, and has worked in libraries. Thank you, Kim. And later we'll put websites into the chat so you can visit all of our poets at their websites. We have joining us today also April Asbury, who teaches writing and literature at Radford University. She also has a website you can visit, and she has a poetry collection, Woman Crows. Ange Clevenger has been published in many educational publications, and her first poetry collection, The Lady of the Lake Had Bouffant Hair, which is an amazing title, comes out this fall. Kathy Haley is also joining us. She teaches in JHU's MA in Teaching Writing program, and she has a chapbook out, I'd Rather Be a Hyacinth. Oh, sorry, that's forthcoming next year, 2023. And lastly, Angie Driven, whose debut collection, Every Girl, is amazing. It was a finalist for the 2020 Broadkill Review Dogfish Head Prize. And her most recent work can be found in the Los Angeles Review, Orion, and other publications. So that's just a little bit about our poets. And now I'd like to turn the program over to you, John, and to our wonderful poets. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you, Wendy. This is great. And thank you to the Virginia Women's Poetry Collective. It was great. Wendy condensed the bios. The bios would have taken about 45 minutes, so she condensed it to about 90 seconds. So that means more room for poetry. I know, Perry, I'm working on the comedy hours, so I'm working on that. After poetry, there's comedy, or maybe both. So, let's begin, and maybe, I'll kind of just go, in some order. I'll keep track of everyone. So, Kathy, you're in the Hollywood Squares left-hand box, so I'm going to start with you. So, what does refuge mean to you? You're muted. You're muted.
There are a lot of ways that I seek refuge, but I think since retirement and since the pandemic, that nature is a big part of that. And in that same time period, as I retired in 2019, there were just a lot of changes in my life, and I'll talk about some of those. But for refuge in nature, if you'd like, I have a poem picked out to read. Are we there at that point yet, or?
No, I think we're at that point. I mean, what we're going to do today, it's a little bit different. Normally we'd play out the discussion and then do some poems, but because we have 5 people, we want to, get your take, and then yes, let's read a poem.
Okay. I have a poem in the merry month of May, which I thought was appropriate since we are in May. This was written during the pandemic in May of 2020. And but in addition to having that refuge in nature, I realized as I was rereading it that there's also a sort of witnessing happening, a nod to Greek heritage, the Civil War, that concept that past is always present, and a feeling of guilt during the pandemic of taking refuge while frontline workers were fighting the war for us. And that also resonates with how I've felt this spring with the war in Ukraine. So this is in the merry month of May. The springtime greening of the woods, the stippling of light green leaves, means the masking of native dogwoods, the camouflaging of squirrels racing over tree roots, teetering on logs crossing Rattlesnake Creek, the thickening of the veil obscuring our view of trains traveling half empty of commuters, of an occasional passing parkway car, or human hunting Civil War relics, arrowheads, coins, bullets, metal detectors humming. The carpeting of front yards and forest floors, inviting bare feet and toes to press into soggy lawns, an aggregate of grass, moss, dandelion, clover, cultivated ground covers like lily of the valley, each touch a different tickle. The multiplication of fig leaves, among the last to sprout, the hope of a late summer harvest of ripening fruit, a taste of Mediterranean heritage in a Virginia garden, along with grapevines for gathering tender leaves. The brave movement of chipmunks from their protected backyard home to an exposed world visited by humans lounging on lawn chairs and benches, seeking rejuvenation in the landscape, warmed and lighted by sun rays. The relinquishing of stardom by solid-hued azaleas, lavender, fuchsia, ruby, to hybrid Ben Morris in variegated red and white, by winter pansies, hyacinths, and tulips, to pink peonies, roses, and hydrangeas in pink, white, lavender, and blue. The anticipation of a rise in hummingbirds, only two-sided in April, one the deepest, brightest emerald green, along with exponential increase in flying flourish, butterflies, bumblebees, dragonflies. As we're cocooned in greening trees, a symphony of birdsong, surround sound with vibrant feathered gemstones visiting feeders, the sapphire of blue jays, garnet of cardinals, citrine of goldfinches, zircon of bluebirds. At home and in nature, we're shut in, peace and protection guiding us. So easy for the veil to thicken, allowing us to forget those at war beyond our boundaries of safety and security, fighting in a pandemic world.
Good, good. Very nice, very nice, very nice, very nice. So I'm going to move on in our poetry carousel. April, you're up next. So tell me, share with the group, what does refuge mean to you?
In poetry, one of my biggest refuges is imagination. The looking at of other works and other worldviews, and also to go along with that, the power that you have to reframe your stories, to work through them, and to find other ways to present them and to live with them yourself. So for my refuge poem, I have one that's a little bit oriented as a persona poem. It's a poem that draws a little bit from Greek mythology. And it's, if Icarus had a sister. If Icarus had a sister, would she be left behind? Surviving, lonely daughter, she has slipped beneath our lines. Surely she obeyed her crafty father, stayed safe in the impossible tower, If she had flaunted him, she'd be part of that monstrous pantheon of feminine sin. Snide Arachne, famished Lamia, venomous Medea with the citrine eyes. Good girls linger nameless. Ignored by gods, bearing no sons or daughters fertile with bloody dynasties. Perhaps she wove tapestries, one-eyed bearded heroes, an occasional lusty cow, a wild-eyed twitchy queen. But what if she flew? While Dad collected feathers, she wove patagia from the coarsest thread, bolted them bat-like to a willow frame. Commanded to stay, she waited for a clear sky and a soft moon. That other business was done by then. Sodden feathers and beeswax globs lost to the restless sea. She trusted her wings and sailed a brisk salt wind over wrinkled seas, placid farms, stately temples, right out of that old story.
Oh, fantastic. Woo. Wow. Woo. You know, you can't do that in Maine. You can't fly with the feathers and stuff. They still outlaw that, but you're encouraging me to go up to the roof of my house now. And only kidding, only kidding. No, that was great. Fantastic. The imagery, really nice. Thank you, April. So Angie, before we, I ask you the question, why don't you share with us about the Virginia Women's Poetry Collective? What that is, what it means to you, what you do together.
Well, that will also be the answer to my question. So I'll be saving you some time.
Okay. All right.
So, yeah, because to me, Refuge is, it's a lot of things, but in this situation and in this show, I'd say that it's community. And that is really how this came to be. Virginia Women's Poetry Collective is modeled after a similar structure that peers of mine have in South Dakota. And the idea is to have manuscript editing without the exorbitant fee that normally accompanies it while building a community. And so without any extra work, this experience turned out to be entirely about witnessing and refuge. These women I collaborate with have been my refuge by acknowledging the potency in my words and by giving me opportunities to share them. Angie and April are from my region, and my work often talks to theirs, a language that the rest of the world does not always readily understand. And being understood and understanding is both a witnessing and a refuge. And April has given me many opportunities to expand my audience and my community, for which I'm very grateful. Kathy and I collaborate on numerous projects outside of this collective, and that is in part because of the vulnerability and commitment of manuscript revision and the relationship that feeds. And after we collectively worked through Kim's lyrical collection, it was accepted by Terrapin Books. Obviously, that's a reflection of Kim as a poet, but I also feel it's an accomplishment for our community. And all of this to say that the reason I suggested bringing the collective onto this show was because I have found it in itself to be the epitome of shelter, safety, and witnessing, which where I'm from does have slightly different connotations than for some parts of the world, witnessing. So, yeah, that's my answer, John.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think you unloaded the whole thing on that one. So why don't you share a poem with us? One of your poems.
Oh, okay. Here we go. Spellbound. Where I'm from, we're taught young the catch patterns of a man, bake the blood of our moons into their supper. It's his tongue sets off the trap pan, warm and wet and searching, ever hungry. Yet still a woman must be clever. Careful, Canis Iatrans, don't turn the flame too high. tend towards maceration. Fennel, carrot, and leek lure the lagomorph. A man unsnared is quick to dodge the ambush of root aromatics. Cherry, coyote woman, we are bound to the spells we cast. 2 hind legs, 1 coyote, 1 hare, caught in my own cool spring. Did we lose John? Or do I just not see him? I think we might have lost him.
I think we might have
So,
lost him.
It's possible
Well,
that
Kim?
we lost him. Let's hope that he pops back on. In the
Okay,
meantime, if
we
I'm trying to think of,
can,
yeah, do you want
we
to
can
just
move on. Yeah,
Great.
let's keep
Awesome.
going.
Sorry
Although
about
we will
that.
miss John. That's all right. He'll be back.
I think so.
Kim, since you're unmuted, do you want to answer that question of refuge and share a
Sure.
poem?
I feel so inspired, and you know, your answers already that you've given are reverberating with me. Natural world is a huge refuge for me. Poetry is a huge refuge for me, and community, particularly around poetry and art and music and the arts in general, community building. And I would say women's community building in particular has been an enormous refuge for me. And sometimes they overlap. For example, I have a short poem, a sonnet, that when I wrote it, I thought was really about my deep yearning to learn as much as I possibly can from the natural world. And I mean by, you know, like going in and learning about a particular wildflower and like what creatures depend on it for their life and how it functions from season to season, to try to get life lessons from it, you know. And then I just recently realized that it was kind of a poem also about writing. So I'll read that one. It's I thought I had it with me. I'll read that one in a moment. Go ahead and I'll pull it up here in a different way and let Angie C jump in and give her answer, and then I'll come back with my poem. Sorry about that.
Thank you.
I look at refuge as a way of finding safety and coming to terms with your past and dealing with some past traumas through that page. The page is a safety or a safe place for me. So I'm going to read My TV Dads. My daddy was a touchy-feely drunkard invading innocent skin by night, a Bible-thumping Christian spouting damnation verses by day. He'd teeter on crutches when we visited the Social Security office, paid bills, or went to church. On Friday and Saturday, he'd nimbly careen all night in honky tonks. But I didn't need him anyways, because I had TV dads. John Walton was hard-working, quiet, and caring with his children. If I needed a protector, I'd just pretend he was standing at the ready to intervene on my behalf if needed. I'd work hard to solve my own problems to make him proud. He said good night and did nothing else to his children at night. Charles Ingalls had some flaws. Every now and then he'd get into a fist fight. I had spunk, but a soft heart like Laura. Charles Ingalls always dealt fairly with Laura. I'm sure he never made Laura drive the wagon home at night because he was too liquored up to do so. Andy Taylor was my favorite TV dad. He'd explain to Opie his discipline choices. I'd often ask myself, what would Andy Taylor do or say to Opie if this happened? Opie never had to dress in extra layers to feel safe at night. And the best part about having TV dads If my dads did things I didn't like, I just changed the channel.
Very good. Kim, you found it?
Yes, I did. Wow, Angie, that is an amazing poem. So, so good. So, so this is called Life Goals. To see the way a coneflower sees a carpenter bee, vibrating with hunger and need. To need the way a stone requires rain, wind, time, and gravity's pull. To pull the way a birch pulls from its core without practice or instruction, bends to grass with grace, forgiving the wind's trespasses. To forgive and hold firm as the goldfinch on the thin, swaying stalk of millet in March. To shine as the same finch when summer comes, flashing sun on broken glass, loop of golden air. To hear the way the mole hears through every hair, the next shining moment of the underground day. A lighthouse made of sound, life at the root.
Very nice, Kim. Thank you for finding that. So Wendy, I'm just going to keep on moving along for John until he makes his way back in. Okay.
Yeah,
It seems
he has been texting me. He's trying to get back
Okay.
on.
Okay.
But his internet connection is sketchy and he keeps dropping, but he's going to continue to try to get back on. I suggested you maybe try using his.
Yeah,
We'll see what happens. Thanks, Angie.
Yeah, we can all relate to that sketchy internet connection. So it seems like we're all retelling in all of our poems to like reckon with, to make beautiful again, to name the beauty we see. And as April said, like finding or creating refuge in our imaginations, which for us are manifesting in poems. And I think that's why this community has been such a gift, is because we're constantly honoring that. We're honoring that manifestation of refuge. And I feel very fortunate to be part of it. So we're doing great on time. We're such talkers all the time. I can't believe how well we're doing. But I think the next question that John would move us on to is defining the witnessing, and how we define witnessing, how we see it in our poetry or how we see it in our lives. And so maybe we should go in the reverse order and invite Angie C. to speak to us first. Angie, you ready to do that?
Yes, I am. As soon as I heard witness, I thought about being in that holiness church where they tell you, Brother John, get up and be a witness and do the witnessing of what God has done for you. Not being personally how I worship. I still understand the idea of bearing witness, and bearing witness is like the first step whenever you, like if you have someone who's going through an alcoholism program or something, they bear witness to and admit that this is an issue they have, or you bear witness about this worked for me. This is what we've done. And it's about what we see and hear and feel. And to me, that is so important to the way women communicate. When we communicate not on a screen for you guys, we always have that connection where it's almost like a spider web being woven as we speak, and bearing witness to what you've gone through. I'm going to read a poem called Vacation at the Nut House. I overheard my mama tell Aunt Sandra, who'd just lost her job at the Marita bread store, that she could get herself a decent vacation if she just told her doctor that she wanted to kill herself. I made sure not to move or breathe too hard under the table. I examined Mama's red toes peeking out from her wedged heels. Her lilac frilled sundress hit her just above the knee. Cigarette smoke tickled my nose, and sneeze threatened to give away my hiding place. Hell, Lana, I can't check myself into St. Albans just to get a little break from my family. Shit, St. Albans has a bowling alley, a beauty parlor, ceramics class. I made this here ashtray we're using. I don't know, Lana. Don't you miss your kids when you're in the nut house? Well, Sandra, your kids can come visit you while you're there. I mean, it's not like it's a prison. Tommy went bowling with me, and Angie and Randy ate dinner with me twice a week. I don't know. It seems so devious. But after losing my job, I know we ain't got no money to go nowheres. I sure could use a break. The pills they give you ain't bad either, if you know what I mean. And group therapy is fun too. You meet some of the most interesting people at St. Albans. You mean like Pat McCoy, the woman who shot her husband and his whore while they were in bed? Well, Sandra, you can't judge Pat for that. That bitch had that coming. I wanted to pinch Mama's porcelain smooth leg hard. I'd worried about her. Daddy said she was sick. My brother Tommy got to go bowling? My face fevered with anger. I reached out and curled my fingers, ready to twist Mama's meaty milk skin just above her knee. At the moment I reached to execute my torture, Mama and Sandy left the table. Angie, where are you? We're going to go to McDonald's for ice cream. I wonder where the hell she's at. Damn, I missed out again.
You're muted, John.
Internet is going between I like you to I don't like you, back and forth. So Angie, I think it was the broad answer to your question that blew up my internet at home. That's what happened. It overloaded yeah. You did it again. You did it again. Kim, did you already have a chance to go?
We all had a chance to read a Refuge poem, and while you were gone, Angie said, "Well, okay, we'll go back the other way and
Yeah.
talk about witnessing." So I can do that, or I can be quiet and wait my turn.
I think what I found out is having Angie on the program is problematic. And I didn't realize that. I've had her on twice now. It's, third time's the charm, but this is like, I think the collective, one of your goals is someone needs to manage Angie over the next 3 months. So if you could self-nominate. No, Kim, go ahead. Well, let's do this. We always have a time where we let the audience have a question or two. So let's do that before we move on to the second half. So anybody have a question? Donna, you know what I always say? Don't let them off easy. Don't let them off. Don't let the poets. This is the time to get them to squirm on the language seat. So, well, I'm not hearing anybody. Let's see. There's something in chat. What's the chat? Oh, Kathy has volunteered to manage me. Good. Oh, Kathy. There'll be extra money when we pay people. Oh. So, Kim, let's go ahead with the. Where'd Kim go?
I'm here.
Oh, okay. Oh, there you are. There you are. Yes. So, Kim, let's go ahead with the. What does witnessing mean to you, and then share a poem with us.
Well, I also feel that strong historical push of bearing witness in both a religious sense and a spiritual sense, and in just sort of a life experience sense, right? And then I also think about, and I guess that does inform some of the poems in which I I sort of reveal things in my life or experiences I've had and try to find meaning in them and work through them. But I also think about poetry of witness and and poetry of conscience, where you're looking around at the world and you are seeing beauty or injustice or terror or grief or joy, and you're giving that life in your poems. You're honoring that, you're exploring that, you're questioning that, whatever the case may be. And I am constantly haunted, as many of us are, by the violence in our culture. The tragic, just the gun violence and the murdering and it's just horrifying, the domestic terrorism. And so this is a poem I'd like to read, in which I try to imagine a world in which some little piece of this, could be diverted. What kind of world would it take? What kind of life experience would it take to not become, a violent murderer or a domestic terrorist? So this poem is called The Guns of His Eyes. Send the boy back up the highway. Send him back across the state line. Walk him to his door. Turn his television off. Tick him back years, then tuck him in with gentle stories. Never teach him the world is his to race, that a man is a man when he lords it over, when he Daniel Boone's his way down any street. Teach him no mother would be proud of a son who murders. No judge would ever gavel such crimes justified. The name Kyle means a narrow channel, a tight passage between two islands. I wish I could build a boat to navigate the hate, to sail through this time and the next, to long ago and far ahead, and calm the waters. I wish I knew how to load this poem with just the right ammunition, how to open every clenched fist, how to discharge a cleansing fire. As he ran, the guns of Kyle's eyes were opened wide. He seemed startled at his success and held his rifle close. He wore his power casually, backwards, like his cap.
Hmm.
Thanks.
Wow, very powerful. Wow. Thank you. Whew. Let's continue. Ange, you want to go next? Ange Clevenger? Yeah, you get yeah, you go.
I have already read one for witness.
Oh, you did?
I did.
Okay, then okay. I don't want to, I can't show preference or the collective will hunt me down.
Yes, that's what I wanted to make
Yeah,
sure
that's
that
what
you get.
that'll happen anyway, probably. But so April, how about you? Have you shared your thoughts about witnessing?
There were only two people to witness the night that I'm going to read about, and one of them is gone, but I still carry it and wanted to share it. And after all, I still have the scars. Chickenpox confessions. Don't scratch, Mom said. Don't pick, you'll scar. But my fingers crept under sleeves, hems, elastic waistband, thick pelt of sweaty hair to catch the rough crust on my scalp. prise up ragged scabs from skin raw and pink as ripped blisters. Pink lotion helped until its cool thickness dried to peeling lizard skin. Gels and ointments, cloudy oatmeal baths, nothing eased the itch except a furtive, ferocious scratch. One night, while I cried in bed, my mother crawled under the covers to rock me. She sang songs I'd forgotten, whispered distractions, murmured promises, her voice low and soft as ocean waves. We'll go to Florida, watch the palm trees dance, and the sea grapes gleam in the shadows by the walk. We'll hear the gulls cry while the sun pours down and bury our feet in damp sand. My tears dried to salt as the white surf leapt and flung jewels of spray from jade green water. Decades later, pale scars gleam on my wrists and ankles, along scalp and belly, like fragments of shell left behind by those waves.
Very nice. Very nice. Let's keep moving here. Kathy, what's your sense or feeling about witnessing?
Sorry, had to unmute. I actually have two poems if you think there's time. I mentioned changes in my life, and the one I didn't mention that was the biggest change is we lost our daughter at 26 years old in a car accident in the fall of 2018. And it took me a little while to write about it, but one of the witnessing elements is really witnessing other people's lives in our family. And it took me a while, but in a workshop with one of my former students, I finally wrote about losing her, and it sort of opened the floodgates of writing a lot of poems about her at various times in her life. But this one is actually about her accident and the travel that she was doing for work before it happened. She traveled to Big Stone Gap, not too far from some of you, in southwestern Virginia, and then to Paducah, Kentucky. It's called Road Trips. It's two parts. One, in Big Stone Gap, Virginia. A summer traveler, our daughter navigates a verdant path in southern Appalachia, driving toward an elusive destination, a new client's residence on Little Stone Mountain. Timber trunks and branches reach to connect, forming a natural tunnel, a lush canopy cocooning her for us, an embrace warmed by a tapestry of dappled sunlight. Inspired by artistic energy, she stops to capture moments on camera, images blurred by glare on windshield glass, captioned by meandering words we read as poetic lines. 2. After Paducah, Kentucky, we travel along by video, witnessing sunlight's ray envelop you as canopy leaves retract, admiring your spirit of adventure, your fascination with freedom on rustic roads. We follow your photographic journey from Virginia to Kentucky, springboards for provocative verse and fluorescent brushstrokes destined for blacklight galleries, unrealized. We imagine sunlight replacing rain, stoplights cleared of unruly branches, our arms reaching around you, protection still possible, if not for crumbled windshield glass. on a stormy afternoon.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Is there another one you wanted to?
Yeah, if I can,
Yeah.
it's very different. And this one is a witness, kind of a double witnessing, because I've incorporated historic experiences of my family as refugees along with the Ukrainian war. And I've done it with a villanelle. It's called Echoes, 1922 to 2022. Attacked by people once loved, now abhorred, families flee, homelands in disarray. I hear echoes in the language of war. My people expelled from Asia Minor, vying for space in small boats to escape, attacked by people once loved, then abhorred. Refugees fled toward the Aegean shore, fires ablaze, spreading along Smyrna's quay. I hear echoes in the language of war. Putin, heralding historical lore, unleashes wrath and terror in Ukraine, attacked by people once loved, now abhorred. A tide of crimes, rape, genocide, torture, civilian strikes on churches, schools, railways. I hear echoes in the language of war. Peaceful coexistence, friendly rapport, shattered through bloodline, though bloodlines remain interlaced. Attacked by people once loved, then abhorred. I hear echoes in the language of war.
Very nice, very nice. Thank you. Angie? What are your thoughts about witnessing and what it means to you?
Kathy's work gives me, it makes me have to pause for just a moment. And some of the things that we're talking about, or they were being invited to witness. And I think that is what I was thinking about too, is the way poets witness, and they invite readers and listeners to witness. And that as we do that, and I feel like I've heard people doing that today, as we witness, we're seeking a refuge a lot of times, like an understanding of why or how this could happen, how anyone could be capable of hurting someone else the way we do. Seems to be human nature somehow. And then also how we're going to heal. If we can we heal from this? And if we can, where will we find that? So that's my thought on witness, and my response to my powerful, gifted, beautiful community of women I've been so fortunate to work with.
No, very nice, very nice. Do you have a poem or two you want to share with us?
I can do this one. When Kim read hers, that made me think of this one. So I pulled it out, but it is because it is. I feel like Kim was writing to witness and also to try and understand. Like you even prefaced it with that. And I went to a military school, and as for high school, and I suffered a lot of abuse there. And a lot of what I've tried to do in my first collection is understand the young men who I shared that time with. And this is about that. For the boys, some would say I owe you nothing more My body has already soothed your fragile esteems. But I read of orphaned bull elephants swept up by helicopters, transplanted to savannas far from their homes, without fathers or uncles to teach them how to be grown. Testosterone lifting their feet from the earth, stomping in the hoods of cars, their bodies strong beyond their minds. What is there to do except forgive the young boy? Only a name tag bearing any semblance to home. The blue jeans his mother chose just for him, t-shirts she washed and dried with sheets of softener, replaced by the quartermaster's rough estimate of waist and inseam and a laundry bag. Wash your own, men now, but you weren't. You were boys. Boys in boots performing with rifles, learning how to be men, from boys in boots performing with rifles, cannot know how to care for young girls who will grow into women, mothers and wives. Bull elephants, limbs outgrowing their own muscles. That's why they call it growing pains, you know, because it hurts. Because bones grow faster than muscle and the muscles torque on the bone until they feel like breaking. But we don't.
Very nice, very nice, very nice. So I want to, have another time for the audience to ask any questions of the poets. We've had a lot of, you should look at the chat. There's a lot of chat in the chat, which we don't have a lot of usually, but yeah, until we feel like breaking, but we don't. Yeah. Now some great, great lines today. Really, really some great lines and thinking. Anybody, oh, Donna, go ahead.
Yeah, can I just make a comment, John?
Yeah.
Without a question. Perry and I live in Buffalo, New York, and everyone knows what happened here this week with our 10 neighbors who were killed.
Yeah.
And this forum with all of these wonderful poets have been inspiring. I love your courage, writing about your most, your deep, pain and just helping us to all get through this crazy life in this crazy world. And your beautiful words help that along. And thank you. That's all I wanted to say. And thank you, John.
Yeah, Donna, thank you. Thank you. Anybody else? Michael, you look pensive there, Michael.
Well, yeah, I second everything that Donna just said and thank everybody on the poems that you've read today. But I'm going to ask you a little bit about process and in your writing, and maybe this is open to anybody to respond that's read, and your rewrite process. These are such beautiful poems. How do you get to that point? Is that an easy process, an easy rewrite, or do you struggle? Are you challenged to get to the final version of something so wonderful?
Anybody?
I have found that the words come as I'm emotionally dealing with things. That is not where it ends, because if it did, it'd be a mess. Then I have to tell myself, if I were telling this story, how would I tell it? And that's when I get that voice that helps me organize it. From being a part of this group, it's led me to think more about when I put together the manuscript that got accepted from Finishing Line Press, I had to make some decisions about which poems come before others and where do they belong. And I really had at the very beginning like a whole memoir of my life, but it wasn't cohesive and focused enough. And I had to weed out some of that. And I found that process to be more daunting than working with one piece. One piece I can find stands on its own. I end up rewriting several times. I'll take it and I'll be like, well, what can be more concise? I'm telling, not showing. And I'll be honest that I've gotten to that point because before I met the other ladies, April and I live close enough together. And even though she's got the big degree and everything, she knew my story and she helped me mine those stories out. Most of my poetry tells a story. So I feel like I was a piece of coal with a diamond in it. And April helped me chisel away and find words, and I'll read it and I'll be like, oh, this is good. But she had helped me a lot with that. I believe anyone can write. It's kind of like ratatouille, anyone can cook. It doesn't necessarily mean that that everything you write is great. A lot of things never see the light of day and they're never shown to anyone. And then other times when I feel like I've dealt with the personal feeling that I was trying to convey, that's when I can become not the person in therapy writing, but the artist that is ready to put something forward.
Yeah, fantastic. Kim?
I love everything that you just said, Angie, and I would add that for me, it really depends on the poem. That sometimes I tell people this and it sounds kind of silly, but I spend a lot of time outdoors in nature as quiet as I can, and I'm listening. I'm listening to my own thoughts. I'm listening to the world around me, and things will bubble up, a word, a phrase, an image, a metaphor, something that needs to come out. And sometimes that happens really quickly with very little revision. But most of the time, it begins sometimes even with me just putting that word or phrase or that few lines up on my wall and looking at it for a while and coming back to it and coming back to it. So I can write a poem in a morning if I'm lucky, and maybe just edit a little bit or revise a little bit, and it kind of comes almost whole. And other times I might spend years. So it really kind of depends. I don't know if that is something you guys also feel, that you can have that whole range where you just get a gift, and then other times where you really have to kind of let the poem work its way through you and become what it needs to be over a long period of time.
Wow.
I can add something about the villanelle in particular, because that's something that's challenging. I had this concept of this Ukrainian war just reminding me of what my grandmother's family went through in Asia Minor. But also I just heard the voices of my English speaking Greek family in the Ukrainian people speaking on the news and the interviews. Like there's just something about that accent or the way the phrases go that remind me. So some of this poem just kind of came to me after struggling with these thoughts of connecting those things. And so once I got the initial lines that we're going to be repeating, the rest kind of came easily in the first draft. And I read that draft at a reading, because you know how you are when you first write something, sometimes you're like excited to try it out. But it's been through 4 or 5 drafts since, and I know it's better, you know, each time, but it has taken some struggle.
Very nice. And I want to read Kim's sister, posted something that was really nice. She goes, full disclosure, I'm Kim's sister. I'm grateful for this community on her behalf and on behalf of the world. I'm spending time healing from surgery and using this period to channel my passions into armchair activism. All of your voices are a balm to my heart. Yeah, very nice. We have 5 minutes left, so I'm going to challenge the poets to each read a poem that's under a minute. Kim, go ahead. Kim's now needs to be sedated because she's overreacting, but
Yes. It's very thrilling to have my sister here and to hear her say that. It's just thank you, Kelly, for coming, and thank you, everyone, for your amazing presence. I get refuge in thinking about the passage of time and how tiny we are in time and space. And that's, it helps me, it helps me put things in perspective. So this poem is called Ephemera. Red dawn on the mountain, light filtering bare trees, bloodroot, hepatica, trout lily, fungal blooms waking the ants, match flames of spring. Bees still drowsy with cold, taking first sips. Waning moon crossing a window, a kiss before sleep. Sleep itself, or any kiss, or any night, or the mystic lantern of a dream, glowing from core to fingertips. Words blading a page, swirling mayflies, a feathery whisper. Passing as the heron over the meadow to the pond, wing beats slowing, shifting, lifting, marking a life. I am saying nothing as tenderly as I can. A lily opening on any pond, any lily, a pulse, a pulsar, starlight pouring millennia at a glance. All this rising and falling, all this tunneling the anthills of perception, all of this, sweet sips of here, now, look, this, yes, then gone. Thanks for letting me be with you
oh,
today.
absolutely, absolutely.
May I
April, you
follow
have
that?
one more? April, go for
Yeah.
it.
Because I think it is a different kind of ephemera, and I'd really love to follow Kim with that one. All the places you love will become CVS. The stately Victorian rotting gracefully on the hill, the bowling alley with its glowing wood lanes, the hunched gray diner with its sagging neon sign, all make way for new CVS. The old hotel, Tudor beams and windows looming over the railroad tracks, bulldozed for a strip mall that was bulldozed for a strip mall. Soon, a CVS. The little downtown stores, red brick and tiled floors and marble counters, vanish in the sullen red glow of CVS. Even the drugstores, the Rexalls and Eckarts and Revcos, where your parents bought your baby medicine, chalky banana and bubblegum pink, where you spent hoarded quarters for store-bought gifts, for uncles and aunts who may not have realized how gorgeous the foil angels blazed, green, red, blue, gold in the buzzing light, color flashing in the shiver of your breath, like space-age church windows and Christmas disco balls. How superior they were to the cotton ball lambs, glitter glue stars, and popsicle sticks, construction paper punched for yarn strings and paperclip hooks, leaving their sparkling decay in the mice nests of family basements. The stores are gone, and the aunts and uncles are gone, and the bowling alley and the old houses are gone, and every CVS stands gray and solid as car after car flickers past.
Very nice, very nice. So Angie, since you're the instigator in charge, why don't you close us out with a poem?
I was going to close us out with a thank you, John. And so if it's okay with you, I want to say this. John Gillespie, I am so grateful for the energy and effort that you have put in to doing this show for the last 2 years. And I think it's tremendous because I know how much energy and effort it takes to organize and to make something cohesive. And you have so many other things going on, and we're incredibly grateful for you. So in lieu of a poem, my gratitude.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I cry reading Hallmark cards, so I'm getting a little teary-eyed. Now, this is my time to recharge myself in the poetry wall. And although the rest of my life can sometimes be very crazy, this is like the soothing balm you could put on a cut that heals it and makes it all better. So, and Wendy, we're at 101. So I think before the coach turns into a pumpkin, April, Angela, or Angie, Kim, Kathy, this has just been a fantastic hour. You know, thank you for, I never thought we could pull off the 5 people, but obviously, Angie, it worked. I know Angie's thinking like, wait, there's 5 more people that should have been on the show. So, you know, can you do 10 people next? Well, we're going to have to, Wendy, we're going to have to expand it to like a 3-hour poetry hour, you know, get all the stories in. Now, listen, thank you very much for investing the time and really sharing your creativity and your souls. It's just been fantastic.
It has.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone, so very much. And please look for the recording of today's session, stockbridgelibrary.org.
And Angie, I'm sending you the chat. I copied all the chats. I'll send it to the chat for you to share with everyone.
I will. I'll definitely share.
Yeah, thanks
you.
again.
Thank
What
you
a
so
wonderful
much.
hour. Thank you very much. All right.